Excellent. Perfect. First of all, thank Professor Tao, dear guests, dear distinguished guests, fellow colleagues at HKU, but most importantly, you inductees. Really, congratulations. It's really an honor to spend the day with you all today. It's a big day. You guys should be proud of it. There's better ways to spend a Friday night, but not nothing as good as being inducted within this great organization that you have today with Beta Gamma Sigma. Guys, thanks you for letting us actually share this day with all of you. I'm not only very excited because finally I'm able to indirectly join the Beta Gamma Sigma family, but also that this happens at HKU, which is an organization that I'm very involved in and very proud to be not only an alumni, but also teaching, but also that it happens here in Hong Kong, my home where I've been here. I've been living here for 10 years and where my baby is born. My next baby is being born in a couple of weeks. So this is really our home. So very happy to spend it with you all. What I want to do over the next couple of minutes is only share some stories. Dr. Yip did a great job talking about 3 phases of our life. I just want to share with you some of the principles that I actually go by every day. You may think some of them are very stupid. Some of them are ridiculous. You'll say, what is this guy talking about? A lot of these things may not apply to you. I'll just share with them, and then, we can decide. Hopefully, one or two of them may be interesting for you and could be useful throughout your career. I actually call them the 10S. They all start with S. Here we have Beta Gamma Sigma. These are I don't know, maybe new initials we have to start, but I call them 10S. So let me go with them. The first one I always say is always, and I do this to all my students in our class, sitting on the edge of your seat. As was mentioned right now, we are going through tremendous changes when it comes to technology in any vertical. Yesterday, OECD came out with a report saying that the 1 job out of 3 was going to be radically transformed over the coming years. In Hong Kong, as was mentioned, I advise the government, I sit on the board of the regulator. 1 banking job out of 3 is going to disappear over the next 7 to 8 years. That means imagine this room, 1 out of 3, 1/3 of you, we don't need you in a couple of years. Not because we don't like you, because we don't need you. And this has very serious impacts on a city like Hong Kong and many other financial centers as well. Or never sit comfortably on your chair, always sit on the edge of your seat. The way I applied in my life, as many of you know, I started my career as a lawyer. I'm born and raised in Montreal, Canada. And I was starting my career as a lawyer. I was in the best firm. I won similar awards when I was in law school. And one day I realized the future is actually not in North America. The future is actually here in China. I moved to Beijing. I learned Chinese for a couple of months. I actually did a master's in Chinese law at Tsinghua. I was one of the first Canadians in history to do that. And it was really that bold move. Everybody made fun of me at the time. But this is really making this sitting on the edge of your seat to make these big decisions that will impact your career. And that's going to be even more relevant over the coming years. Second thing is seize the opportunity. This I cannot emphasize how important it is, and I always call it the no pain, no gain formula. In our, like I was mentioning, in consulting firms now, we're all moving to work-life balance, trying to have a balanced life. Personally, I don't believe in that. I genuinely believe that if you want to have a 9-to-5 life, you will not be able to be successful. All these management consulting books that talk about a 4-hour workday, all these new, honestly, I don't think this is actually happening. I can tell you personally, I really believe that 10% extra effort that you make gives you that extra 25-30% output. To this day, on Saturdays, I'm at the office. I just heard next Wednesday is statutory holiday because it's great because I can actually get some work done and get an edge on our competitor. I just finished my next book, which is coming out in June. People tell me, Henry, why do you write these books? Because it's kind of stuff that actually gives you an edge. This doesn't happen by magic at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. This happens on weekends till 2, 3 a.m. at nights and other holidays like these. I know many of you follow me on social media. I do these weekly 1-minute videos. It takes me between 4 to 6 hours to make that 60-second video. But that helped me now build a 500,000 individual following on social media, which is basically my own TV channels, my own mediums to communicate. So the second, seize the opportunity. The other one is shift. You need to capture the shifts that are happening in society. I just got back 2 days ago from New York. I can tell you there's a lot of changes going on right now in North America. In China right now, we have a lot of changes going on as well. There's going to be these systemic shifts going on, and I really believe for those of you who have the privilege of being born in mainland China, you are the most luckiest generation we've had in 5,000 years of Chinese history with everything going on. I can tell my family history, it's been 5 generations, we're born in 5 different countries. My great-grandfather was born in what is current-day Turkey. I'm Armenian by background. Big parts of my family was massacred during the Armenian genocide that happened 106 years ago, actually yesterday. They had to flee to Syria, where they had to start a completely new life from scratch, where then they had to leave. My grandfather was born, and then my father was born in Lebanon, Beirut, where then they started a new life. The war started. They came to Canada. And then obviously me, I had to move here to Hong Kong, and my daughter is born my daughter is born here in Hong Kong. Where my daughter's daughter or kid, son will be born, nobody knows. But just the shifts are happening in society. The other big principle I live by is staying healthy. This is very important. You know, like there's certain things in life you will have no control. And as you grow older, you lose some friends, you'll have family members who will have cancer, diseases, and other things that are outside of your control. A lot of this genetics, some of them is your own making. My view on life has always been, put the odds on your side. Don't smoke cigarettes, wear sunscreen, and put your seatbelt, especially when you're in a Hong Kong taxi. At least put the odds in your favor, and then you hope for the best from that perspective. You know, to this day, I work out every day, and you know, just to keep this grit we're talking about, you have to stay healthy. You know, you can be as smart as you want. If you're not healthy, you're finished. Other one is staying grateful. The other S, stay grateful. All of us in the room, we have won the lottery of life. Make no mistake, we're all in the 0.01% of the population of the world. The fact that you're here, you're able to come and study, not worry about what food you're going to eat in a couple of hours, or actually feeding your family. We're very, very lucky. I've been very privileged in my life. You know, I've traveled to over 70 different countries. Places like North Korea, to Bangladesh, to countries across South America. You know, I've sat on train buses on 24 hours in China next to a guy who lost his arm making toys in Shenzhen. He's finished. He was going back to Chongqing because there was nothing else to do. I've been the guys in Cambodia who stepped on a mine, they lost their legs. People in Vietnam, because of napalm bombs, they're completely finished. Or the guys in Bangladesh who are a rickshaw driver, they have never the chance of mobility that you have. Or where you're born. Today, I find one of the biggest inequalities of life is the passport. One of the biggest determinants of your life is actually when you're born, on something on which you have no control. Those of you who have to get visas all the time find it's completely unacceptable. So again, all of us in the room are very lucky. Never forget that principle that we have. Other one, setting goals. Personally, I can tell you on January 1st every year, I put very strict goals, what I'm going to do that year. I actually do on a monthly basis. I sit down, it's always on my calendar. I take a 2-hour period, one evening every month, 1 month, go back to my goals that month. If you don't put very strict setting goals, you'll be like driving around a desert, never knowing where the road is. Again, when people tell you, don't worry, be happy, just enjoy yourself, unfortunately, in the current day, I don't believe that's actually possible. Other S is the school of life. You know, a part of my university degrees, I have 3 master's degrees. Unfortunately, I never made it to a PhD, but I can tell you honestly, I've learned more in my life having a beer in a youth hostel in a developing country, talking to fellow backpackers, than in all my university degrees. I was just talking to Professor Tao right now that I really believe universities will need to change very, very quickly. I think a lot of us actually, we're not giving the right training to a lot of the students that are graduating. For the training you're getting is not what we have to retrain people when they join our firms because the training is actually, there's a mismatch. But the school of life, I believe, is one of the most important things. Often in jobs that you do. You know, one of my first jobs when I was young, I used to clean cars. That's how I learned a lot of my client skills. You know, I used to sell alcohol, rum and coke during football games. That's where I learned to speak and yell like this. You know, I used to work as a security guard during my law school to pay for my studies. That's where I learned that actually, if you're paid by the hour, it's not actually good ROI on your time. You better work with your brain. And there's many things like these that happen over years. Traveling. I can tell you one thing when you're young. When I was your age, I used to backpack a lot. The 10-hour flight in economy class was not a problem. Going on a big, long bus ride, sleeping youth hostels was not a problem. Trust me, as you get older, you know, you become way, way more difficult on your travel standards and where you stay. So enjoy now that while you can. Trust me, this is going to change pretty quickly. Another one is selective. Be selective with the time that you spend. I get emails every day, people saying, hey, let's catch up. Let's have a coffee. Let me pick your brains. You have to be very, very selective with the time that you spend. You know, I always said life is a triangle. You have 3 things. One is energy, one is time, and one is money. In life, you always get the 2 of them. You'll never get the 3 of them. Think about often you as a student, you have time, you have energy, but you don't have the money. Later in life, You know, you'll have the money, you'll have the energy, but then you won't have the time. It's always a triangle. Be very, very selective who you spend your time with. I can tell you personally, when it comes to individuals, I'm extremely selective who I spend and who I make new friends with. It may come to a surprise. The test that I use, especially with friendship, is this person, if I'm accused in court, will this person be behind me, actually backing me, supporting me? You know, there's a lot of people, especially as we become successful, people try to take advantage of you. So that's one of the things on that side. Last before last is staying humble. Staying humble. You know, in life, there's a lot of luck. You know, some of you may start a company, you may be very successful. Some of you may start the same company, you may fail. Some of you may marry somebody rich. Some of you may inherit money. You know, and some of you may actually do all the right things, but still not succeed. There's a big luck element in life. You always have to be humble. Sometimes you'll succeed, sometimes you won't succeed. Life is a roller coaster, you'll be up and down. What I often tell to students in my classes, make sure that you are moving forward and you're humble. I call this the business card effect. You know, if many of you, let's say, will work in finance, you work for a big bank, you'll have a nice business card, your parents will be happy at dim sum on Sunday, but often people will also be friends with you because they can get business out of you. It's often when you don't have that big business card, it's actually, you realize like how much you're worth and what is the real. That's one of the things, always staying humble. And I'll finish it off with service. Again, we're all very lucky here at HKU. You have the privilege of being one of the best universities in the world with some of the best faculty in the world. You know, honestly, I can tell HKU, I've had a chance to deal with our faculty here in management for many years. You generally have some of the best in the world, right? One of the big things I personally find as service is giving back to the community. I do it personally by teaching. I think it's unacceptable today we let students graduate out of business schools without courses in fintech or the future of finance, big data, AI. That's why I think it's been an honor teaching here for the last couple of years and giving back to the student community from that perspective. We were just discussing before, one of the groups in our last class, you know, they were pitching their fintech idea. This group actually won the pitch of their fintech startup they were pitching. Now they're actually launching a real business of what they did in class, right? So there's, I think, a lot of these things, always give back. Some of you may give money, some of you may give time, but very important to give back to the community from that perspective. So I'll stop it here again. And what I just mentioned, by the way, is the principles that I go by right now. I can tell you 20 years ago, it was different. 10 years ago, it was different. And I guarantee you in 10 or 20 years, it'll be different. But hopefully, some of these things that I shared could be quite useful for all of you. Again, once again, thank you for allowing us to share this very special day with all of you. It's been a pleasure being part of HKU community, and congratulations, and I wish you all the best over the coming years. And I look forward to catching up with many of you outside during the tea time. Thank you very much, everybody.